Welcome back to the BTS Happy Hour podcast. I'm your host, Andrea. With me, as always, is Morgan.
Hey, what's up?
There's a post on Reddit that's talking about how in the past few weeks, there's Army on Twitter sending hate, and they're saying that Olivia Rodrigo isn't legitimate Asian representation since she doesn't look like an actual Asian and is white passing. So the reason people are even talking about her race right now is that Olivia Rodrigo said in an interview recently that growing up she thought that only white women could be pop stars, implying that as an Asian she wouldn't have a chance at it. And so a lot of people just in general were criticizing that statement, not just Army.
Right.
Because if anyone follows pop music, there's been many non-white pop stars.
Right. And not only non-white, but there have been Asian pop stars. Now, and have there been a lot in America? Obviously, no. But I think the last few years have taught us that America isn't the only market or industry out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think she was being held back. And also, let's try to remember this girl's 18. So when she says when she grew up, she's talking about like 2012. Understand that. This is not like the olden dark days of racism and prejudice and, British imperialism or something. That's not when she grew up. She grew up in 2012. Obama was president, okay? Like, just to give you an idea of the times she grew up in. What do you mean you didn't think you could be in 2012, you didn't think there were possibilities for you? Well, maybe you just had limited thinking, And, when did she get on Disney? When she was like 14?
Yeah, probably a few years ago.
So, like, literally the next day after she had this thought, she became a pop star. Is that right?
I would say signing to Disney is pretty good for your career, That's a solid...
I would say that we've all pretty much almost made it, right? Maybe you're not going to be a worldwide superstar or anything, but you're a pop star. You're singing on the Disney Channel.
It's a TV show.
How's that not a success? How's that not making it just because you're a kid? That's still a peak that's much higher than most people ever get to. So I don't know what she's talking about. I think it's just empty virtue signaling on her part. Yeah,
and I think that's where Army came in because they didn't just bring it up out of nowhere. They're kind of reacting to what she said in this interview. And I think on one hand, they're kind of offended because they feel that BTS has faced actual, setbacks due to being Korean by the West, whereas she's trying to claim some kind of discrimination growing up in America, and there probably really wasn't any. I feel like the American music industry doesn't care what race you are. If you're a good singer, you're probably going to get signed to something.
She says she's a woman of color, right?
Right.
She's 18 years old. She's been on Disney for 6-7 years. She's been groomed by a major corporation to become a pop star. What opportunities were not available to her? What? And you can say, well, I guess I was mistaken, but you could see how I would believe in the dark, terrible days of 2012 in America, how people of color have no opportunities whatsoever. Well, no, I can't. What are you talking about? Right? Did you expect to get a Disney contract at the age of 3? And you're 11 years old and you're thinking, man, what's the holdup here? I was expecting this contract at 3 and here I am a whole 11 years old and I don't have one and I'm not a pop star. Is this something that can happen for women of color? I don't know. And then, the next year at age 12, Disney said, they tapped her and said, hey, you're the next pop star. And she said, yay. I guess it can happen. I was totally wrong to think that it's impossible just because it hadn't happened for me in my 11 years of being alive. Right? What was she like? I can understand if you were toiling in the music industry and you're 50 years old and it's like, man, it never happened for me. I wonder why.
Yeah.
And then maybe you're thinking, is it because I'm a person of color? Is it because I don't have the talent? You start to second guess yourself and your place in this world and maybe how even receptive the world is to you. Is that what she was going through at age 11?
I don't think she went through a lot.
No, I don't think so. So this timeline doesn't match up for me. You're 18 years old. You've been famous. You've been a pop star for about 6 years. I think, yeah, you probably were a pop star before puberty. So when were you expecting it to happen? I don't know.
And the thing is, a lot of people try to be pop stars, and a lot of people don't make it. And if you don't make it, that doesn't mean it's because of your race. If she was not famous right now, would she say, oh, it's because I'm half Filipino, that's why they rejected me? I don't think that's the case.
Well, the criticism on the Reddit post is that there were a lot of attacks that she's not really Asian, right? Is that what they're saying?
Yeah.
Army's attacking her. You're not really Asian. Well, number one, she does look fairly white. Okay, that's a reality. If we were playing victim Olympics here, then she does have an advantage.
Right.
Right. I don't personally like playing that game of victim Olympics, but if we're gonna play it, then these are the rules. If you look more Caucasian, you have an advantage. That's one of the rules, right? Well, there you go. I think it's a fair criticism. And for the people who say, oh, she's not Asian, some people, their criticism of that was Army or critics of her were basically saying Filipinos are not Asian because they're not East Asian, right? But that's a discussion for a different day. I think that what they're mainly saying is that you don't look Asian, either Filipino or East Asian, right? You don't look either kind of Asian. So.
Right. Like, I didn't even know that she was part Filipino.
No, she doesn't look like the Filipinos I know, and I know a ton of them, you know?
I had the sense that she was biracial, but I thought she was white and Hispanic for some reason. Just because her last name.
Yeah, I mean, that would... But then again, Filipinos have Hispanic last names.
Yeah, that's obviously true.
But that's just the reality. That's just the reality, okay? She has an advantage in that if you subscribe to the premise that it is harder for people of color to get ahead and be a pop star, which I don't agree with at all. I think it's totally easy, and I think she's probably some of the biggest evidence that it is these days, right? But if you subscribe to that notion, then you do have to admit that it's easier for her.
Yeah, like
because she doesn't look like a person of color.
This Redditor was saying like, oh, if you say that she's white passing, that's an insult. But she kind of is white passing. She looks white.
Well, if you want to be insulted by it, I guess that's on you. Like whether a person is insulted that's subjective to them, right? But I don't mean it as an insult when I say it.
Yeah,
I just mean that people kind of are confused by your ethnicity, and a lot of people will think that you are white.
Like they're not reading Filipino 100% of the time.
Yeah.
People that look at her. And this Redditor was trying to make the point that, oh, Filipinos can look, many different shades or whatever. And it's like, okay, that's fine. But when you see like a typical Filipino person, they're often like darker or, different kind of nose shape, like more on like the Hispanic features. And so she's kind of more the lighter skin kind of looking Filipino.
Right. Obviously, there's a large amount of variation in the Philippines because of Spanish colonization, right? So it's a very hybrid gene pool compared to, let's say, Japan, which has had a more homogeneous gene pool for a much longer time, right? So, there's going to be that variation. But within that variation means that there's a lot of people who have very Caucasian features in that country. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean they're not Filipino. It just means that they're white passing, right?
Right.
And it doesn't mean to say that, oh, I accuse you of trying to be white. No one's accusing you. We're just saying that people will be confused by what you are and kind of assume that you're white. Mm-hmm. That's all.
Now, I didn't really see a lot of hate on Twitter. I did see a lot of criticism of her because of this whole issue. And it's coming from, Filipino Army. So people in the Philippines who are saying like, okay, I look at her and I don't think she represents us because she doesn't really look Filipino to me. And I think that you can have that opinion. That's totally fine if they don't feel like she represents them, and they don't like that she suddenly brought this up, like she's trying to gain a bunch of like Asian fans out of this just by talking about her heritage of a sudden.
I see their angle. Right. In that regard, I would say it's fine for them to feel that way. If you feel a person doesn't represent you, that's fine. You don't have to feel represented by anyone. On the other hand, I would say it's not her responsibility to represent anyone but herself, right? But then she is stepping in sort of muddy waters by playing this card and like, oh, I didn't think I could as an Asian girl, whatever. So she's trying to take on that identity.
Yeah.
And of course, that will, make people who don't even think you fit that identity feel some kind of way. But again, if she wants to identify as that, that's fine. I don't care. It's no skin off my back. I don't feel any kind of way about it. I'm not Filipino, but for the people who are Filipino and do feel some kind of way about it, I would say you should get over that. She can identify as anything she wants, right? Mm-hmm. On the other hand, you are totally within your right to say, oh, she doesn't represent me. But she can also say, I identify as Filipino, right? Even though, she doesn't look it. She definitely doesn't look it. And for those people who point to Filipino celebrities and like, well, these people are, but let's just be blunt here. Filipino celebrities are strangely very Caucasian looking.
Yeah,
okay?
They're very light skinned.
They clearly favor that look over there. And if you just walk on the street there, they don't look like the vast majority of people walking on the street. That's just the reality of it. Okay? That's okay. You can favor whatever you want in your celebrities, right? And they don't have to necessarily look similar to, American celebrities don't look the way Americans look. They're thinner and more attractive, right?
Right.
Right? So many times, if you're a foreigner and you come to America, you're probably wondering, are all Americans this fat? That's what a lot of people who are from foreign countries tell me. Like, I didn't know you guys were fat. Because you just watch American media, that's why.
Mm-hmm.
That's the impression you get about us. That's not accurate, That's not what we put on in our media. So, yeah, I feel like it's pretty lame of her to pull that card and act like, oh, I'm just a girl of color. So I'm so lucky. I was worried that there's no room for me in this industry. Like, they made room for you in this industry when you were like 13 years old.
Yeah. And
what the hell do you mean? I
don't think Army that was talking about this was being particularly hateful. I think they're just putting in their 2 cents about the whole thing. In a recent installment of a Korean variety show called Praise or Scrap, first-generation idol G.O.D. member Park Jun-hyung appeared as a guest and reminisced about his idol career. One of the MCs said, "Didn't you have a dating scandal back then too?" And then he responded, "Right, it wasn't really a scandal so much as I was just dating that person. The fact that we dated is not some kind of crime, and I did not want to hide it back then." And then after he said that, the other MC made a suggestion that, today maybe K-pop idols should publicize all of their dating, and that way the industry would become more free and open to hearing celebrity dating news. And they suggested that agencies just find out which idols are dating, and then they all announce it on one day or like on a regular basis, or like all on the same day. So netizens read this and they thought that was like pretty funny idea, and I don't know if anyone would go for it, but I think that's something to...
What does this mean, same day? Like, if you go out on a first date, they put out a press release?
I took that as like, okay, every day, every first of the month or something, let's all announce who's dating.
Oh, like the companies coordinate? What?
Yeah.
What difference does it make if one company says it before the other? Is it like a situation where the one that says it's second is in a disadvantage or something?
I guess the thought was that people's attention would be going, many different ways. So it wouldn't be like, oh, everybody's focusing on, Jenny and G-Dragon or whoever,
Oh, I see. So everybody just pummel the public with information overload.
Yeah.
And so you can't, how can you be outraged over 30 things?
Yeah, and then like no one couple will face tons of heat.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. Well, we're on record here as, being that we're in the West, we think that dating should be normalized. We don't think it's a big deal, but again, that's not our culture, Korean culture. And I'm not even sure it's Korean culture. I think it might be just stan culture. Like the hardcore fans don't like it.
Idol culture.
Right. I think that there's maybe even a majority of K-pop fans in Korea who don't mind or care, right? It's just the very extreme fans that care. And it just so happens that those people generate the most revenue. That's why it's a problem. That's why it's a quote-unquote scandal. It's not a scandal. It's just your highest revenue-generating customers don't like it because they feel like they're in a relationship with their idols or something unhealthy, right? So we are for normalizing it, even if they lose this revenue, like these hardcore fans fall off. I think that if the industry keeps growing, it's fine. They'll make up the money elsewhere, Mm-hmm. So I'm all for normalizing dating and not hiding it or not calling it a scandal. But I'm not for invasion of people's privacy. Like, what will every idol have to report who they're dating?
Right. What if they don't want to announce it?
Right.
Or what if they just went on like one date and they're not like, oh, we're not committed or anything.
Right.
We're just
Will it be like, when you're in the office and people have a whiteboard that says like, I'm here from this hour to this hour and not that hour? Will people have to like have a whiteboard? It's like, I'm dating so-and-so on Thursday and so-and-so on Tuesday. Is that it's gonna be like?
Oh, true. What if they're dating more than one person?
Yeah. And here's the other thing. I don't think you're prepared for how much they're dating. I have a suspicion that they're dating a lot, okay? You're gonna have to get ready for, oh, Jenny's dating this guy, and then like next week she's dating a different guy. I think you might have to get ready for that. And I'm pro letting people date who they want to date, but I'm not so sure that K-pop fans are prepared for this world where they know that much. It might hurt them a little too much.
Right.
Okay, we should go a little slower, is what I'm saying.
I think that the people who run these agencies, they would like it if it was more normalized, but I don't think they may not be willing to be the ones to like step forward and like, okay, I'm willing to announce our people.
Right. Because then they don't want to lose. Yeah, we've talked about this. Then they'd lose the hardcore fans to other agencies, right? You know, of course, agencies don't care. I wouldn't say they don't care. I think some of them might have the attitude that dating is a distraction, so they frown on it for that reason. But I'm almost certain that most of them don't frown on it because they think, oh, it's wrong for you to date. I don't think they think it's wrong. They don't want to alienate their hardcore customers, right?
I don't think they want to take the risk because they don't know how people will react. Like, okay, maybe everyone will be fine with it and it'll be normal after, but it could blow up into a huge thing. Like, it's hard to say like what will happen exactly.
I guess, yeah, it is hard to say, but things like, I don't know why. I mean, it seems like everybody who has a dating scandal, they have to like go to P Nation or something, right? And whatever. Are their careers over? This seems just fine, right?
Right. They are fine now.
So what's the problem? I think it's the experiment. Is Jennie fine? Or does Blackpink have no fans now?
Yeah, she's had...
Yeah. Does Blackpink have no fans?
She's had 2 dating news.
So we've kind of had the experiment, I feel, right? Does Twice still have fans?
They have fans.
Right? 2 of them are dating or have dated, right? They still have fans. So I'm really not sure what they still need to see as far as, hey, will people accept? Because they were dating people. They were not punished or anything like that. There was no scandal. The company, their stance was totally people can date.
Right.
You know?
And they don't say a lot of details other than, you know, these two people were dating. So
I would say that the industry is ready for it. The only thing they're not ready for is, will the company want to give up those hardcore fans, right? Because that's what they're risking. Will they lose some revenue on that end?
Yeah, and I think the other thing is that, you know, a lot of times there's a situation where all of a sudden there's an idol and it's like, oh, by the way, I'm going to get married next month and I'm having a baby, and it's like kind of too much all at once. Like, wouldn't they want to release some news gradually so that avoid that situation?
I think the problem with that is that only happens because there's nothing you can hide at that point. Like, what can you do?
Right. They kind of waited till the very last minute to say anything. Yeah, I think it's going to come down to just agencies, what they decide to do, because it's not going to be an overall any agreement between like multiple labels. They're not all going to agree to do anything. So it just depends on who has, like, you know, like P Nation is. If you're a more progressive label, then maybe that'll start happening more. So in the recent weeks, there's been new celebrity dating news, and there's even some idol members announcing that they're getting married and having a baby. And so someone posted on an online community that every time there's a dating scandal, they think, how come BTS is never involved in one? And so the theory among most people is that BTS is just more discreet than others. So I think they believe that BTS is probably dating, but they are just good at keeping everything private. But I do think there could be other possibilities. I mean, one theory, I don't really believe this one, but it's possible, is that they don't really do anything scandalous, and maybe they don't date or rarely date, and so therefore there's nothing to say. There's no news. Mm-hmm. But I mean, we believe they probably are, just like the ages that they are.
Come on, it's like 28-year-old guys. Right? Well, do we think that they're not dating? Come on. Even if they were all gay, they'd be dating somebody. Right? Well, one way that it was done in the past, not in the past in K-pop, but in like American media, was that you pay the journalists. Like, to be, you know, there's a hush-hush agreement. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, studios would pay journalists to play ball on this. BTS, I think that the only way I can figure that it would be this quiet is that the company helps them a lot, or they devote resources and infrastructure to help them date quietly, right? Like, sometimes people are dating and like they go out to a public place or something, and well, you're going to be found out. You're just going to a public place and you have a mask or something like that. Or remember that we saw that Korean show where they said there's this one parking lot where celebrities drive to or something. Why are you going to a parking lot people know about?
Right.
Right? Obviously, you should do this in a foreign country or in like something that is private, or a restaurant that's rented out and nobody else is allowed, or something like that.
Like some other rich person's house.
Right. Or like just a mansion where the person comes over, you know, but it's not clear what's going on, or you can't go out in public.
Mm-hmm.
Come to your home. It's a nice fancy home. You can have a, you know, dinner there or whatever you want to do, right? I would imagine that that's the reason. They just devote more resources into keeping it private. This whole just going out in the public and like you're not going to be found out, that's very risky, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they might also be a little more discreet with who they date. Not like, you know, like
Lucas.
yeah, like that idiot, like dating fans, you know? Of course, that's going to blow up in your face.
Yeah, fan dating an idol, that's going to get very emotional and result in leaks.
So maybe they don't do that. Those are the only reasons I can think of.
Yeah, my main theory is that they date, but nothing that crazy has happened, and they're able to keep things private because they have several strategies in place. Like you said, they have Hybe helping them, and I think Hybe probably has some guidelines in place for them to follow. Like, yeah, don't be seen in public, don't be holding hands with someone, like out in public places, and dating at private houses and things like that. That would be a good way to not be caught, because who can see that? And another strategy is paying the press to keep away from reporting them, or at least check with Hybe first before they publish anything, because then maybe Hybe could like just give them money if they've actually found anything. And like you said, the selection of who they're dating, I also think maybe they use NDAs so that at least there's, even though like I don't know if that even holds up in court, like, oh, we can't say anything about that you dated this person, but at least that would be something that they would agree to. Like, if you're dating someone, sign this, and you can't talk about them to the public or leak anything on social media. So that maybe they do that. And I think another big piece of it is that they have very loyal and competent managers, because it sounded like the manager of Lucas didn't do a great job with, you know, knowing where he was all the time and what he was doing. So I think Hybe probably has like managers that they've assigned to BTS that are people who've been there a long time and are very loyal people. So if anything came up, you know, they're able to handle it and probably even be there with them. So no one's caught in any kind of crazy situation. So I don't think it's that Hybe is like super controlling or anything. I think they just have more strategies in place and they know how to keep things from getting out of control. And I do think a lot of it is their managers that are keeping track of what's going on. I had another theory, and it's that Hybe and BTS aren't any better than anybody else at keeping things secret. It's just that the relationships we do hear about are the ones that are purposely leaked. So it's like, maybe it's very easy to just completely hide what you're doing, and the ones we hear about are just the ones that they want people to know about. Because there's very few times that the press has reported something and like they just found it out completely on their own. A lot of times it is like the agencies. It's like, we're announcing it now. In celebration of BTS member Jungkook's birthday on September 1st, a fan commissioned a billboard of the singer at a busy intersection in the city of Gujranwala, Pakistan. So it was basically a giant birthday billboard in Pakistan that some fans paid for, and hours later, the fans found out the billboard had been taken down. A provincial assembly candidate and member of the Islamist political party had the ad removed after it was brought to his attention on Facebook. And he said it was taken down because this group, BTS, has a negative influence on young people and encourages them to behave in wrong activities, and that they promote homosexuality.
Okay.
So I don't know where he got that part from, but I don't think this assembly person knows a lot about BTS. He's just kind of like things he's heard. And well, in the first place, I'm surprised that fans in Pakistan even tried to do this. Like, I thought, wow, there's no way they would even allow a billboard like that. But I guess it was up there briefly.
Well, people will take money and then, yeah.
Probably there's no refunds on that.
No.
Even though it got taken down.
Well, I saw the billboard. It was just it was just a picture of him. I don't see how it promotes homosexuality. I would almost take it like a compliment. Are they saying he's too good looking or something? Like, what are they saying?
Yeah, like, first of all,
it's just a man picture that would promote it? I don't understand.
A good-looking man. Like, well, how does that promote homosexuality? He's never said he's gay, so there's not that.
He's literally doing nothing in the picture, by the way.
Yeah.
If you look at it. I don't get it. Maybe these people are projecting or something, you know? Normally I don't like to do that criticism. I was like, oh, you might be gay if you're talking about gays all the time. Or you see them everywhere. It might be you, right? I don't know if that's true, but it might be true in this instance because I don't know what he's seeing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's nothing. It's just a picture of him.
I think this assemblyman, he just got complaints by some probably older people about the billboard, and he didn't like look into it at all himself. Because if you know anything about BTS, you would know like, okay, they're not promoting homosexuality. None of them's even gay, so that shouldn't even be a criticism.
I think it might just be more basic xenophobia. It's Pakistan, right?
That's true.
It just must be maybe a culture shock to a lot of people to see a big billboard of him, Jungkook, right?
Yeah.
Like, what is this? You know, if you live in a, conservative Muslim society and you look at this giant billboard, what the hell is this? Mm-hmm. It might be just that general reaction. The specific accusations are not as important as just the culture shock and the resistance to foreign culture, you know?
Yeah, it could be that, and that the assemblyman just brought up some made-up reasons. It's like, oh, well, of course you have to take it down if it's promoting homosexuality. And, like, that doesn't even have to be true, but if he says that, then no one else is going to question it. And I think there's also a generation gap here. Probably the younger Pakistanis don't see the big deal. They're probably more westernized, and they're like, oh, well, K-pop fans are putting up billboards like all over the place. I see that all the time. Like, I want to do that in my town. And then they run into resistance from the older generation who's like not on board with all that yet.
They don't have to be westernized. Korea's closer to them than the US. Right? These are both countries in Asia. But you could see the culture shock, perhaps.
Yeah. Twice member Tsuyu's fan club in China is being affected by the new movement that the Chinese government is taking to make entertainment-related platforms perform their duties to ward off irrational idol worshipping. So on August 31st, Weibo notified her fan club that it needs to change the name within the next 2 weeks as part of this system. Which I don't know what they're supposed to change it to, because it's basically called Tzuyu Bar, which is just like Tzuyu fan club. Like, what's so bad about that?
They're supposed to disband it. That's how they're supposed to change it.
Oh, not just change the name?
I'm sure they mean that you're just supposed to not have this fan club anymore.
I see.
Because she's Taiwanese.
Oh, that's true. That's probably what the issue is. Because they didn't say that about any other Twice fan clubs.
I mean, this is part of this is a really good, interesting topic to get into. This is part of a much larger push in China to sort of circle the wagons and regain a tighter grip over their social fabric, right? They've been, and I'm sure this is all related, they've been cracking down on the tech billionaires who say bad things about the government. They've been cracking down on their own celebrities, right? Mm-hmm. I recently saw an article that says they banned non-masculine men from being on TV over there, okay? They've been pickier about what kind of American movies are shown over there. Mm-hmm. They are cracking down on what kind of K-pop artists can perform there, right? They've always been strict about that, but they're becoming stricter about it.
Especially the foreign artists. So, like, if you're Korean or Japanese.
Yeah, and I'm sure, especially if you have any sort of tie to Hong Kong or Taiwan, right?
Oh, yeah.
So this is part of a larger movement in China to sort of tighten its grip, you know? I think they've gone through a long period of social loosening, allowing foreign influences to come in, maybe spur innovation, definitely spur economic growth, right? I mean, the country it's making money. Part of that is allowing some of these foreign elements in. China definitely likes making money, all countries do. But I think they feel that outside forces it's a degenerate influence, right? There's degeneracy, as they would call it.
Right.
I'm not calling it that, but you could see how maybe they would think that. Like, put yourself in Xi Jinping's shoes, right? He's the one that calls the shots, him and a few other people. He's looking at, these K-pop people are coming in here, and they have more access to, the web, even though you don't have great access in China. But, you know, there's workarounds.
Yeah.
They're getting ideas. They're digesting foreign ideas and foreign principles, and just they're being influenced. Here's a good analogy. Here's a way I would describe it. Remember when you're a kid, and let's say maybe you're a good kid, so this doesn't apply to you, but I wasn't necessarily a good kid. So you'd start hanging around with the wrong people, right? And they were maybe a bad influence. And my mom is Chinese, or she's Taiwanese. But what happened to me when I was hanging around the quote-unquote wrong people? She didn't just say, don't hang around those people. Well, she did say that, but that wasn't the only thing she said. It was part of a holistic tightening, restricting of my freedoms, right? Mm-hmm. Like now you can't play video games as much. Now you can't go out on these days. You can't go out this late, et cetera, right? Because there's a sense that I'm sort of spiraling out of control. You know, I wasn't even spiraling out of control. I just like hung out with people she didn't like, you know, right?
Right.
But my overall life became more restricted because she had that sense and she wanted to tighten her grip. Mm-hmm. And, you know, in her mind, it's for my own good, right? And I'm sure in the CCP's mind, it's for their population's own good, right? Whether or not it is, you know, that's an argument for another day. I think you know what I think, but that's what they're thinking, though. So if it feels like it's coming out of left field, it's not coming out of left field. There are a whole host of things that China's doing right now because they feel like the population may be slipping out of their control just a little bit, and that's not acceptable, you know. And I can't help but think that they look at what is happening in America and over the past 10 years and what's happening in our society, and they're afraid of that, right? They don't think it's ever going to get to the state we're in, but clearly, you know, technology, the internet has been a positive in many ways, but it's been a negative in a lot of ways too. People are divided. People are, you know, there's just crazy stuff happening here, and one could say that the moral fabric of the United States is loosening, right? At least that's how, let's say, a Chinese person in the CCP would look at America, and that would be their interpretation, right? They would say, look at how your moral fabric is loosening. We have to guard against that happening here. And a lot of these measures, they just feel like your mom cracking down on you because you're hanging out with the wrong people, you're watching the wrong things. Mm-hmm. Don't watch that show. That show is poison, right? Think about it. I mean, have you had a parent that's sort of done this, right? It's like, that's a bad influence. Now you can't do that anymore, right? Oh, another thing, Chinese kids can't play video games more than X hours a day. No.
Oh, yeah, that too.
And that's like not even an analogy at that point. That's literally just the same thing, except your parent is a CCP, right? And the video games are a bad influence, right? Yeah,
so it's not just K-pop that they're trying to limit the effects on. It's just like many things that people do for fun.
You know, degenerate cultural stuff from the West, right? Degenerate, like they're like, why are you watching these men that are not masculine? Chinese men need to be masculine and strong and productive, right? Because that's for the good of China. That's exactly how the CCP is thinking. Now, will it succeed? I don't know. Are they even right to want to do this? Also debatable, but that is what's going on in the mindset of people in control of China right now. And you'll probably see more stuff like this. And bringing it back to K-pop, bad news for K-pop, because these things aren't going away, and it's going to be harder to make money in China. And I know they were really, really hoping to blow open that market and make money in it. It's going to be harder. Good news for Western fans of K-pop, because, well, if you can't sell K-pop in China, what's the other big market that you have to focus on now?
Yeah, go back to North America then.
Yeah, North America. And you can say, well, they're trying to open up Japan. I think Japan is open already pretty much. So it's going to be North America and South America that they really are focusing on.
You're not going to face as many barriers to... It's just going to be like, will you produce a product that they want? It's not going to be like, well, they're limiting you from...
Right. I mean, the contrast is stark. What are the barriers in North America? Radio play, Billboard writing bad articles about you, other artists accusing you of rigging the Billboard charts. Maybe some of that stuff is irritating, but it doesn't even come close to the way the game is rigged against you in China. Mm-hmm. China can literally just top down make a decree that says, no more K-pop.
Yeah, they might just do that one day.
No more K-pop. Your companies can't come here. You can't sell here. You can't tour here. You can't make a cent.
And nobody here is allowed to listen to K-pop.
Yeah, they can do that top down tomorrow. And then what? Then how are you going to make money there? Will that ever happen to you in America? No. So come make money here. There's the golden opportunity. It'll be better for North American Western fans because they'll be catered to more.
Yeah.
Now, that raises up a whole other can of worms because I don't necessarily like my vision of what K-pop is. Like a K-pop that caters to Western sensibilities. I don't necessarily like that vision. I don't think that doesn't look good to me. We already have a Western media and music that caters to Western sensibilities, and I don't much have a taste for it now. So I wouldn't particularly enjoy K-pop mimicking that. But that's just me. Other fans in the West, most of them probably disagree. They would like K-pop to sort of look more like Western media. A lot of them, I would imagine, right?
I mean, I like Western sounding K-pop songs. Like, there's kind of a spectrum of K-pop, I would say, because, there's some that sound like very Korean, and then there's a side that sounds very Western.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I like Western sounding K-pop songs as well, but I don't like it when K-pop companies have to kowtow to Western sensibilities. Like they have to be more politically correct or act like a Western company has to act. I don't like that, but you might see more of that though. You might see more of that because what's the big market that they have access to now? North America, not China.
Yeah, I also don't like if they feel like, oh, we have to do a lot more all English songs. It's like, don't feel like you have to do that because that doesn't always work out. Sometimes a song just sounds better in Korean and just keep doing it that way, But I think what China is concerned about, and I don't know how they're even paying attention to all this, but they've been looking at fandoms and how they act and like how obsessed they get with idols, and it's like, let's pool our money and then buy all of these billboards in places and do all of these extravagant things for someone's birthday. And like China does not like seeing that happen because it's like you're paying more attention to that than your job or your studying, and that's part of why they put in all these rules. And then I was seeing that there's some big fan wars between like two actors, and then people got really like obsessed with it, and I guess China didn't like that it was just like taking up so much people's time, and then people had like such strong opinions about it. Like they really don't like behavior that they can't really rein in. So I think that's part of what they're trying to keep under control. But that's what China thinks needs to be done. And if you're from a country like America where there's freedom, it's like you're not going to agree with that because it's like, okay, yeah, fans are wasting their time and wasting a lot of their money on pointless stuff in someone else's opinion, but it's like that should be their freedom to do that if that's what you want to do with your free time. So it's just really a difference of opinion there, and that's China versus the US. Oh, and what do you think will be the result of anyone who's a Chinese idol, but you're in a Korean group right now? So those couple of people that are Chinese, are they going to have to like give up some of their promotions and like only work in China, or will they not even be allowed to have that much of a career?
Who knows what the CCP wants for these people?
Because so far, the Chinese K-pop stars, so far they've just gone along with everything, and then they've, like Jackson Wang or whoever, they would just say things in support of China anytime something comes up. They have to
continue to support China.
Yeah.
They have to, and I don't even blame them. You have to understand these people have families there, and you don't know how uncomfortable. I'm not saying that people will be rounded up and shot, okay? But you can make things very, very difficult for your family if you're too outspoken, okay? And if you think that they can do what they want, just remember that not even Chinese billionaires are safe, okay? This is a country where not even billionaires can be safe from the autocracy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Jackson Wang certainly isn't safe. He needs to stay in line.
Yeah, because China, at some point, might restrict him even further. Like, oh, we don't like that you're an idol and promoting, crazy fans doing things, even though it's like, oh, I'm just trying to be a singer and that's it. I'm not trying to corrupt people. But yeah, I think this will make it harder if you're a Chinese idol and trying to be in a Korean group, because the agencies might decide, well, it's really not worth it. We have to deal with China, and face all of these like negative repercussions and you can't even like really promote there as much anymore, so you may not get your money back for having, you know, Chinese idols. So yeah, I wonder what that's going to do for Girls Planet 999, which is going to have like some Chinese in the group. So I don't know if that group will even be able to promote in China after the fact, now that all this has happened. And related to the last story is that fans from China paid for, this is a Jimin fan club, Jimin Bar, collaborated with Jeju Air to customize an entire airplane to show Jimin's face on the exterior starting September 1st to November 30th in celebration of his birthday. So now that China has put in all these new rules, it seems like this activity is exactly the type of thing that they'd want to ban. So
Precisely.
I think this is probably not going to happen. I don't know if they already paid for it or not, but it seems like China would definitely not want that to happen.
They'll shoot this plane out of the sky.
Oh my god. I don't even know how you set this up, and like I don't understand why Chinese fans, they're so over the top with the things that they do for idols, and why do they have so much money? Because this has to be very expensive to redecorate an entire airplane.
China has so much money because Chinese people have so much money because China has so much money. Right?
Is this what the young rich people are spending money on? It's like, let me just celebrate Jimin's birthday with like millions of dollars.
And they didn't make the money. Their parents made the money, probably.
Right.
I sincerely doubt it's some hardworking, hard-charging entrepreneur who like has time to do this. It's some guy who made a lot of money. His daughter's doing this or something, probably. Let's just be real. That's what's happening.
If we looked into it, that's probably what happened.
I don't think people are crazier in China. You just have to understand there's a lot of rich people there. There's a lot of people there, period, right? And you're just going to get more of it because there's more people.
They just have more resources to spend.
Yeah, they have more everything.
Things like
so
this.
You're going to see it more often. I don't think they are uniquely, fanatical or anything like that, or uniquely rich. They're just a rich country, but a huge one.
And it's always a Chinese fan club that's putting up tons of signs in Korea, like in the train stations and all that. They're the ones that do that a lot. So yeah, clearly the Chinese fan clubs, they have a lot of money and a lot of people that want to do stuff like that. So
yeah, it's only going to be up a month, right? It's not going to be on the plane forever. So maybe they'll allow it for a month. But going forward, this is not the type of thing that will be allowed. I can almost assure you.
Yeah, I think I did read later on that fan club, the Jimin Bar, got into trouble for fundraising all this money, and it's probably going to be shut down. So
right.
I think that's going to be the result of this one last thing that they did.
Yeah, it will be. I mean, first of all, going back to they're not allowing non-masculine men on TV anymore. Who's going to determine who's a masculine man or not? Is this going to be a job? Will the panel decide? Will it be up to a vote or something? Jimin might be in trouble because I think that whatever this panel, it probably won't think that he's masculine, okay? So, and the same goes with a lot of K-pop idols, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, however these people decide it,
I did see some funny comments. It's like, well, let's just have some idols, grow facial hair. That way they'll look more masculine or get more muscular. Like, would that be good enough for the Chinese standards? Like, we don't know what their standard is, but, I don't think you can try to meet it. It's like the idols are going to look like what they look like. Thank you to our guest, Morgan. You can find BTS Happy Hour on Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many other podcast platforms. New episodes weekly. If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. Follow BTS Happy Hour on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Weverse. You can also go to the website at btshappyhour.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for additional content. Until next time, this has been the BTS Happy Hour. Thanks for listening, and remember, make every hour a happy one.